So this represents the last lesson for this chapter. Your test on this is Friday. I hope that you work to kind of come to terms with what we've been doing in terms of addition, subtraction, multiplication. We'll do a little activity tomorrow for those of you whose test scores or quiz scores from last Friday kind of put you in that position. So I'm going to look at those. I'm actually grading these right now as you work, and we'll figure out what we're going to do about trying to get you better at it. But the lesson today really isn't introducing anything new. It's just pretty much exposing us to two different things that we're going to see. Go ahead and write this down as I talk, because this is pretty much where one of the crazy things that you're going to see is. So just remember that whenever you square something, it means you multiply it by itself. And as long as you remember that, most of it should be fine. Most of the errors are when people try to take a shortcut because they see the squared and they multiply the x times x, the 5 times 5, and they stop. But it's more than that. So whenever you see the squared, I need you to understand if there is a square, don't take the shortcut, write it out twice, expand it, and then do the work that you've been taught to do. So for example, on this question it says, what's the simpler form of x plus 8 squared? Simply take the x plus 8 and write it by itself twice, because that's what this is telling me to do. And then of course we have x times x, which is x squared, because there are two x's. We have x times 8, which is 8x. We have 8 times x, which is also 8x. We have 8 times 8, which is 64. Putting these two things together, you get 16x and 64. So again, not a tough issue to deal with, just again making sure that you understand how to do the work that's necessary on that. Alright. Another problem you're going to see, of course, is an application problem where it talks about find the area of a piece, and it's going to be an area of something overlapped to something else, and you're going to have to either add or subtract the two. In this case, it talks about a square outdoor patio is surrounded by a brick walkway. What is the area of the walkway? Well, they give me that the distance here is x, and that the distance of the length of the walkway, or sorry, the width of the walkway is 3 feet. So what happens is, if you're wondering why this is x plus 6, it's because it's 3 and 3, which make your 6, and then plus the x, which is right here. Same thing going the other way. You've got 3 plus x plus another 3, which is where your 6 and your x come from being added. But in terms of the walkway, if we do x plus 6 times x plus 6, that gives me the whole square. But I have to subtract this area right there because that's not the walkway. So what we're going to do is find the area of the full square. And that's both of those together. And again, the way you find area is length times width. That is x plus 6 times another x plus 6, which again, working that out, is x squared plus 6x plus 6x plus 36, which when you put that together you get x squared plus 12x plus 36. Again, that's the area of the full square. But we don't want the full square, we just want this part. So what we want to do is erase or take away that area, and of course the dimensions of that is x by x. So the area of the patio is just x times x, which is easy enough, just x squared. So again, the full part right there is going to be the area of the square. Take away the area of the patio, which if you substitute that, you get x squared plus 12x plus 36 minus x squared, which when you work that out and put your like terms together, these two things cancel out. X squared and negative x squared, that should be 12x by the way. X squared and negative x squared cancel out, giving us 12x plus 36 as the area of the patio. Now again, that is an algebraic expression there because we don't know how long this patio is or what the dimensions of the patio are, and if we did find out the dimensions of the patio, then we could plug that in to say find the area of the walkway. So for example, if we knew this was 10 feet by 10 feet, then we could put a 10 in there. That would be 120 plus 36. That would tell us the area of the walkway, and so on. But either way, just make sure you understand whenever you have shapes that are overlapping and you want something taken out of it, you simply take the area of the big piece and subtract the area of the piece that's inside of it, and that'll give you the area on the inside. Going a little bit further and making sure we have our idea of how to work these things out, we've got x to the third plus 8 times x to the third minus 8. I'm going to rewrite that in the middle so we can see it. part of, I think, where our issues is in following the rules of what we learned. X to the third times x to the third. Remember, that means there are 3 x's here, 3 x's there, which means it should be x to the sixth in that situation. This gives me minus 8x to the third. This gives me plus 8x to the third. And then minus 64 here. And what you notice is when you go to put your like terms together, these two are opposite, so they cancel out, giving us x to the sixth minus 64. And that would be your final answer there. So the two things that this is pretty much showing us is the problems where you're taking the number times itself by using the squared format, and another problem where you pretty much have the same thing being multiplied, but there's a plus and a minus, and what tends to happen is that the middle term gets canceled out in the process. For example, let me just show you real fast. If I had x5, and I put a plus here and a minus there, notice you get x squared minus 5x plus 5x minus 25, and notice these two 5x's go away and there is no middle term. And that happens whenever you have the same thing in both parentheses but just a plus and a minus there in the middle. So that is the second thing that they're going to talk about, or that they want you to be introduced to in this lesson. Other than that, let's do one more problem before we move on to our work for the day. And again, it's an area problem. They want the area of the shaded region, which means it's this part. And again, notice that you have the full part, but you want to take away that little square right there. So what we do is we find the area of the full square, which is x plus 4 by x plus 4. Multiplying that out, you get x squared plus 4x plus 4x plus 16. Putting all that together, you get x squared plus 8x plus 16. Again, make sure you're with, or that you understand every single step that went on with that. It's just basically the multiplication of binomials that we learned last week. But we got to subtract this area, so we got to also find the area of this, which is x minus 1 times x minus 1, which is x squared minus x plus 1. Putting these two together, those aren't opposites, those are the same, so it'll be x squared minus 2x plus 1. So we've got to take this area, which is the full square, minus this area, which is the small square. So we've got to do x squared plus 8x plus 16. Because there's a lot of terms in this, I'm going to use parentheses and take that from, or take away, x squared minus 2x plus 1. This is again where you have to start, and where we're going to work tomorrow on making sure you get it. This subtraction sign means switch, and so it means switch everything here. So we're going to rewrite it as x squared plus 8x plus 16 minus x squared plus 2x and then minus 1. Alright, from there, put your like terms together. X squared, negative x squared cancel. 8x, 2x make 10x. 16 and negative 1 make plus 15. And that is the final area of what we're looking for. So again, it's not a hard situation. You just have to make sure that you take your time on finding that the pieces and plan it a little bit before you get in too deep to it. So again, you understand you got to find the area of the big piece minus the area of that. And again, you'll notice that I did not use parentheses when I subtracted x squared, because it was just x squared. One term is going to get switched. But if this was x squared plus 5, I would have put parentheses around whatever it was so that I knew to switch everything there. But because this had more than one term, I wanted to make sure that everything went in there, because whenever you subtract something with more than one term, everything has to be switched before you can get your answer. Other than that, log into MathXL and begin doing today's work. Again, this is the last official assignment for MathXL for this unit, and so you want to make sure if you finish this one that you go back and start trying to get your other scores up, because you don't want to be doing this week's work next week. Otherwise, you run the risk of again starting to fall behind and messing things up. And I think a lot of you did a good job of using the review days that we had to catch up. So we've got all the rest of this week to get ready for the test. Just make sure you're asking questions and taking care of whatever it is that you don't understand. Good luck.